Information about the new infantry commanders has now officially been released, and these two new infantry commanders are going to 100% change the meta for Rise of Kingdoms, being viable both in open field and in garrison. So stick around in this video for a full rundown on what their skills are, what the pairings I think are going to be, and before I begin, allow me to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, Infinite Galaxy. This is Infinite Galaxy, the sponsor of today's video, and this game is a lot like Rise of Kingdoms, but in space. I would know, because I've been playing for over a year now, and I very much enjoy this game. Instead of collecting commanders, you're collecting flagships, and instead of having archers and cavalry and infantry, you build warships in your spaceport, which I am navigating through right now. Instead of buildings in your city, you've got a command center, and you update all of the buildings in your spaceport. This game is very fun, and we are recruiting players to our nebula. Much like a kingdom, we have nebulas in this game, and if I zoom way out, you can see that they are very, very large places with many planets and things to explore. But I'm recruiting you, yes, you, directly to my nebula to play in Smash Squad alliances. There's going to be a link in the description, both to download the game and also to join up in our Discord server. We are in Nebula 13. So if you join us, you can create a new account. You can join us in Nebula 13 and start playing in one of the main Smash Squad alliances right away. There's currently no migration in this game, so we are recruiting players directly to our Nebula. I want you to come play with me in Nebula 13. We have won almost every single time we've queued up for the equivalent of Kingdom versus Kingdom, which is in this game. We've also got a Galaxy Summit, which is like Ark of Osiris, which you can see on my second channel, where I've played that game mode extensively, both the KVK format and also the equivalent of Ark of Osiris. Everything you'll need will be in the description, and I would encourage you to go check it out, and thank you again to Infinite Galaxy for sponsoring this video. The new infantry commanders have now been made available with their full skills listed in an official Lilith forum by an official verified Rise of Kingdoms account. So that means we finally get to talk about these new infantry commanders. Scipio Africanus, back in black, baby. The dude is looking, I mean, stronger than ever. And also Flavius Aetius, who is the first commander in Rise of Kingdoms to not have skinny legs. I mean, okay, so let's actually get a look at the skills, and rather than start with Flavius, who is a garrison captain, I'm actually going to start with Scipio, and Scipio looks absolutely freaking amazing for the open field. I mean, he's basically the Nevsky for infantry. He's just insanely good. So Scipio is an infantry, versatility, and support commander. The infantry and support trees are very good. We have seen that combination of skills, infantry, and support before. For example, Constantine has that. It's a good combination. And the first skill is absolutely insane. It's absolutely disgusting. How do they make this a skill? I mean, obviously we're looking at a new power level for commanders for what they've been doing recently. Is no question about it. Deals direct damage factor to 3 targets in a forward-facing fan-shaped area. Damage factor 2,000. Okay, that's a lot of damage factor and a lot of targets. That's Guan Yu levels of damage. And damage dealt to each target is reduced by 15% for each additional target you hit. This is true of most area of effect damage. The more targets you hit, the less damage you deal to any one target, but the more total damage you're doing across all the targets when you add it all up. And successfully hit targets also suffer 30% reduced health. What the heck, man, for 3 seconds. So Guan Yu does area of effect damage like this and then does a silence. Here we've got 2,000 damage factor, 3 targets, and reduce the enemy health by 30% for 3 seconds. I mean, this is just so strong. But we're not done yet. Like, every skill is just completely busted. The next skill, all conquering. Increase infantry units attack by 40%. Okay, that's a lot of damage. And their march speed by 15%. So we're on par for like everything I want in an open field commander already, by the way. We have area of effect damage, which is insane. We have debuffs, and we have march speed. Like, those are my top priorities for open field commanders. But there's also triggered march speed bonus here. If you're outside of your territory, you go 10% faster. And when you're outside of your territory, that is when you need to be going faster. So that's absolutely insane. That, by the way, is going to work in game modes like Ark of Osiris, Also, Canyon, if you care about that. And he is going to be good in Canyon, by the way. The next skill, Strategic Pressure. Increase the infantry unit's health by 20% when attacking troops. So, this is an open field skill. Attacking troops does not mean swarming a garrison. We're talking about open field. And grants each attack a 10% chance of dealing continuous damage for 3 seconds. 500 damage factor? Whoa, 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 whoa. This effect triggers once every 8 seconds. Is that right? So we're looking at 1,500 damage factor? 10% chance of that triggering? And it's damage over time, which means this additional damage factor is enhanced by Cyrus's debuff. Wow. Okay. Scipio is looking super thick, man. And health here. So let me just make sure you understand this. He's got attack, he's got health, he's got area of effect damage, he's got march speed, and he's got debuffs. He has literally everything I want in an open field commander. Oh, but we're not done. The new version of Testudo Formation is insane. I say new version because we already have a Scipio in game and he already has a skill with this name. But this is his final form. He has evolved. When troops on the map take skill damage, there is a 50% chance of reducing that damage by 30%. Okay, so I kind of like to think of this as 15% skill reduction if I try to compare to other things. But that's not exactly how that works. It is actually just a 50% chance of reducing the amount by 30%. And forming a shield that covers up to 3 allied units for 3 seconds. This is so busted. Damage factor 500. So we're talking about 1,500 total shielding factor when you add it all up. This effect triggers once every 8 seconds. This is an open field monster. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. We now have debuffs, area of effect damage, tons of stats. We have march speed, and we have buffing. Honestly, absolutely insane. And we're not even done. Increases damage dealt by 10%. This is the expertise. And when the target is silenced, rage grows 30% faster. So I think if you are hitting a silenced target, you get 30% more rage gen. I mean, honestly, this is absolutely freaking disgusting. Who will you pair Scipio with? If you were bringing 1 infantry march to the open field and 1 infantry march only, then that 1 march would have to be Guan and Scipio. No questions asked. That's the one. The one and only march you need for open field for infantry. Now, granted, I personally am going to move into the realm of using 2 infantry marches, and that is because there are other commanders that I really want to use. I feel like Guan and Leo are just so busted. I don't need to break up that pair. It's one of the best open field pairs in the game, second only to some of the new cavalry commanders. So my intention is to bring in Scipio and Alexander the Great. And I might even pair them together. So Guan and Leo, Scipio and Alex. That's one way to run it. I think that's probably how I'll do it. But I'll do some testing and see. The support tree is really amazing. There may be some anti-synergy with the shields from Scipio and the shields from Alexander the Great. But without getting into all the complexities there, I think that those combos are absolutely amazing. Scipio is undoubtedly going to be a must-max infantry commander for the open field. My impression is that he's probably available on the Wheel of Fortune, as is often the case with versatility commanders. So I think that should be our expectation. And that is great news because literally everybody should be maxing Nevsky, everybody should be maxing Scipio. And between the two, honestly, it's a toss-up which one you would prioritize. I think that Scipio is a fine choice, and you could even prioritize him over Nevsky, frankly. But they're both so good, you really want to max both those commanders. Their power level is quite literally a tier above all the other commanders we really have available in the game. They're so good. So, Scipio Africanus, everybody, back in black and looking super thick. Now, the thing is that the other infantry commander, Flavius Aetius, is also no slouch, and he is going to change the garrison meta. Really, no questions asked. Slam dunk, he looks amazing. Infantry garrison skill is a fine combination of talents. You might prefer a support tree commander to be the primary, like Zeno, and great news, Flavius and Zeno, I think, are going to be really good in the garrison. The Spear of the Empire is the active skill, and I just want to talk for a moment about how completely busted the power level is here. We're talking about 2,300 damage factor to a single target. That's like Nevsky levels of damage. But what's completely OP is the fact that If the target has been reduced to 50% or fewer units remaining, it deals continuous additional damage for 3 seconds, 150 damage factor per second, 3 seconds. So we're looking at another 450 damage factor for a grand total of 2,750 damage factor. That is freaking busted. That is completely busted. That is insane. Now, there's no debuffs, and it requires the target to be less than 50% of units remaining, which will almost always be the case if he's garrisoning something, because the rally will very quickly drop below that 50% of units remaining and stay there for the duration of the fight. So this active skill just looks very strong. The second skill here, increase infantry unit attack by 15%. Oh, and when you're garrisoning, by the way, defense of infantry increased by 15% and health by 15%. So we're looking at 45% of stats on the second skill if you're in the garrison. I do think that he is going to be constrained to being a garrison commander. Not that you couldn't use him in the field, but you only get 15% attack if you're in the field, and that is just very, very, very unimpressive these days. The next skill makes it so that your counterattack is increased by 20%. I love that. That works in the field, but the second half of this does not. When troops are garrisoned, normal attacks inflict a debuff on the target that increases the damage they take from infantry by 1% for 15 seconds, and that stacks 10 times and can trigger once every 10 seconds. So for a long-running fight, you can get 10 stacks of this debuff, which means they will take 10% more damage from infantry. Seems good. You're going to run an infantry garrison. Flavius is going to be in there. Strong. Let's look at the next skill here. It is a passive skill, increasing all damage dealt by 10%. Okay, well, that's just good. And when launching a normal attack against a target inflicted with an additional damage effect, there is a 100% chance of inflicting silence for 2 seconds. This triggers once every 7 seconds. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. When launching a normal attack, this is what you are directly attacking. So if you're in the garrison, it's whatever hits you first. You will be normal attacking, directly attacking. Also, if you're in the field, whatever you are directly targeting is what will be hit with this. And if they are inflicted with an additional damage effect, which I think, by the way, is referring to like the active skill, how it does additional damage factor over time. Is that what it means? Or does this refer to an additional damage effect like the previous skill we were just looking at, increasing the damage taken by the target? Perhaps that is what we're talking about. Leave a comment down below if you're confident in which one that is. Now that I read it, I may be a little less certain as to where it's coming from, but Flavius does both of these effects. So if you are afflicted with one of these additional damage effects, there is a 100% chance of inflicting silence for 2 seconds, and it can trigger once every 7 seconds. I mean, can you imagine? Every 7 seconds, you silence your target? That is disgusting. This is going to completely shut down XY rallies, potentially. I think there is a strong indication here that we may be moving away from the heavily skill damage, rage cycle-focused combos with XY involved, reducing the rage requirement, to things that don't fire off their skills as fast because you're going to be silenced, and the silence is very effective against commanders that have a fast rage cycle. There's a high likelihood that you are going to be slowed from casting your active skills. This is very strong against the cav-dominated meta that we have right now, and I think is almost exactly what we need to start to balance out the intensity of cavalry for rallies. And last but not least, yes, there are still more skills. This is the expertise skill. Decrease all damage taken by 10% is amazing. If you're getting swarmed, that's very good. When using an active skill, there is a 30% chance of inflicting 2 stacks of a debuff on the targeted troop. Each stack increases their damage taken from infantry by 1% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. This effect can trigger once every 10 seconds. So this looks like we now have 2 skills here that are going to increase the damage taken by the target by an upwards of 10%. So that's a grand total of 20% across those 2 skills, stacking over time. Commanders that remove debuffs, like Pakal, actually seem really strong in that regard. I'd have to double check that this is a debuff that would in fact be cleared, but this also makes it so that counter rallies are going to be very, very effective in dealing with whatever it is that you're fighting, because they're going to do so much more damage to the target. I guess if you use an infantry counter rally, I guess I need to caveat that. If you use like a Pakal Herald, then I think that you're going to get the benefit of that like 20% extra damage to the target, which seems really good to me. I think Flavius paired with Zeno is going to be the way. I think Zeno is going to be the primary. I think that the anti-swarm on this garrison is pretty good. I don't know that it has more anti-swarm per se than actually using YSS, so that is something that's noteworthy. But the fact that you stuff all infantry in there and you get the full benefit of all the equipment and all the stats and all the commanders, I think this is going to be a really strong garrison. I think it's going to be meta. I don't know if it will be meta in Ark of Osiris. I'm not sure yet if it will be meta there, because often you do actually just put multiple different troop types into a garrison in Ark. You just got to put what you have. But for KVK, I think that this seems like it's going to be the way. It seems very, very strong. So where do these commanders leave us with the meta and Rise of Kingdoms? I think for open field, Scipio is going to be absolutely game-changing. Candidate for being one of the best commanders in the game. Hands down. Really, really strong. As far as rallies go, I think he could be used in a rally, but there is one major downside here, which is that some number of his skills are actually only useful against troops. So, for example, increases infantry units' health by 20% when attacking troops. And also the fact that he is, like, shielding a bunch of stuff. Like, you don't really care to be shielding things when you're doing a rally. And that's only if you're taking skill damage, right? Oh, yeah, here's the shield ability, right? This only works if you're taking skill damage, which in a multi-rally situation, you probably aren't going to be taking skill damage. Although the 30% health reduction is kind of amazing. I don't know. I think that it is possible he will be used for rallies and perhaps more for counter rallies, because that should qualify as attacking troops. Maybe. I mean, we'll have to test it and see if it actually works the way we would expect it to work. But either way, in the field, he's going to just be absolutely insane. And then again, I think that Zeno is already a good garrison. I think that Flavius paired with Zeno is going to be even better. And welcome to the infantry meta, everybody. Hope you've been saving up your gold sculptures like I've been advising. I do think that Flavius is not exciting in the open field. I think he will be fine, but not amazing. And so I would probably just stick with Scipio if you want open field, and Flavius if you already have Zeno and you want to run an infantry garrison and you already have meta equipment. I don't think that Flavius is particularly suited for city defense either. I'm not saying he'd be bad, but I don't think he is better than the options we already have today. And if there's any other observations you have about these commanders, I am eager for it down below in the comments. Let me know, and also a big thank you again to the sponsor of this video, Infinite Galaxy. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.